All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Folcroft Borough Council for February 2nd, 2021. I call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Just want to mention before we begin that an executive session prior to this meeting took place to discuss personnel matters. And that's that. Let's move it on to the mayor for the flag salute and invocation.
As we've been doing, take a moment, think of the people dying from the virus. Hopefully President Biden can do something with this vaccine, get it working the way it should be. Okay, pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
Republic
which was
stands
one
one
nation,
nation
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the roll call. Andrew can take that.
Council President Papaleo.
Present.
Councilman Kyle Willis.
Present.
Councilwoman Lee Daly.
Present.
Councilman Nick Waters. Councilman Nick Waters. Nick on here?
Here.
All right. Councilwoman Melinda Isaac.
present.
Councilman Robert Ruskowski.
Here.
Mayor Fry.
here.
Solicitor Alex Baumler.
Present.
Councilman Jason McGuigan, sorry, I had already entered this in, is absent, and I am present.
All right, moving on to audience participation.
No audience participation for this meeting.
Okay, can now we go ahead to the engineers report, Ms. Catania?
Thank you. Just a couple things for the meeting next 2 weeks. I want to say next week. 2 weeks. We have the county aid resolution, which is part of general fund monies that can be utilized solely for resurfacing. It's actually this resolution goes to the county. We have that resolution in the application itself. Just to give you an update, Safe Store, we're having some problems with the erosion sedimentation controls. I don't know if anybody's been around there. We have mud out on Chester Pike, and I actually, the last time I spoke to them, told them that I would shut them down if they didn't get it cleaned up. So I'm not sure how much more I can do other than to keep advising them that they need to clean up the mud. They do have a rock construction entrance. I'm not so sure that they're cleaning it as often as they should be. They were going to put a water station in. Obviously, this is not the weather to try to put a temporary water station in. So we're going to live with that for a little bit. But last time they did end up getting a street sweeper to clean the road off after they had cleaned up the mud. So we'll just keep on top of them with that. Otherwise, the Popeyes, I believe we have one small issue with the stormwater, and if they are good to go with their agreements, and solicitor would be able to tell us about that, we should be able to get them started within, I would say probably the spring they'll start that Popeyes. Otherwise, I have general progress.
Lisa, can I just ask, if you have any other contact information for the Popeyes folks, please forward it to me, because they've not reached out to me at all.
Joe D'Amico hasn't reached out?
No.
Joe D'Amico Jr. is the attorney for Lee Brown. Let me see if I should have his.
Yeah, I thought they would have by now, but that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were getting ready to start. It's kind of. I don't have it with me. I do have his contact information. He's in media.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just send me when you have a chance. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was muted. That's everything, Ms. Catania?
That's everything for this evening, yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to public finance and administration. We wanted to discuss the borough fees and fines. The fee schedule or the fine schedule, I think that was something that we had discussed a while back, that something we wanted to revise. Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you for some questions and or for some commentary on the matter. And I wanted to kind of pick Alex's brain about some stuff too. So what did you have on this?
So, if you recall, at our last meeting, a resident had submitted a question or a concern regarding the time in which the borough fines are required to be received, or payment is supposed to be received. We council members noted that there were issues with the mail, and that's held up some of the payments. We obviously have the online feature now. We're not taking cash, but still, many residents don't have checks. While some, may not be able to pay immediately, or may not even, by the time they pay it, it may not be received on time. Having reviewed the way this operates now, and again, Joe, as you said previously, you did discuss the cost of these fines. Personally, with regard to code enforcement, I would advise that no fine prices be increased at this time. I had counseled differently last year. However, with Joe Donnelly providing the service and regularly fining offenders on a weekly basis, we're seeing a real change, I think, in many repeat offenders or many problem households, removing items from their property, removing refuse from their property, broken, windows or doors, things like that. So I think this stuff is starting to get repaired. I would advise that as we are regularly fining and consistently fining, that I don't think we need to change those fees. But I would say that and my proposal to you would be a 10-day window for residents to pay this fine, or at least for it to have been received, or otherwise, as you noted in the previous meeting, allow them to contact the borough in that time period and discuss the matter. If they can repair it, we can obviously potentially, depending on the situation, drop the fine or the fee. So that would give them, that 10-day window would give them the opportunity to either pay or to contact the borough. If it gets put in the mail and it's been, stamped as received during that 10-day window, but we didn't receive it until after, I think that's fine as well. But beyond that, I think after 30 days that we could discuss sending out reminders. And I would add that it might be advisable to, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, we need a resolution here or an ordinance. I think it's an ordinance to increase or add a $10 administrative fee to any fine that is over 30 days late. So this would allow the borough to send in a letter, an invoice to residents. Now that we have a record, we keep these records, we could go back in after 30 days and send letters to households listing each ticket or if there are multiple tickets, and with a $10 administration fee for a total overall cost.
You're right, Andrew. But I'll just add, I haven't seen this. Were you able to locate the current fee schedule?
No.
Any record that the borough council's passed one in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
Not offhand, no.
Okay, because I know, it's not commonplace for a municipality to update it every single year, but generally you only want to reach back about 5 or 6 years before you want to update. But I know I didn't come across it looking through your code either, so I think we need to start there and just determine the baseline of what we have as far as fees too.
I do think it needs to be reviewed. Even if we don't change it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Lisa.
Just an FYI to answer your question, Alex. Back in January, I believe, we were looking for a fee schedule. We did find a fee schedule for permits. However, we didn't find the schedule, any of the fees that were changed. I believe it was in 2019. And you'll have to excuse me because I didn't realize this was on an agenda or to be talked about tonight. But we do have a partial schedule of fees. That ordinance actually cites that we have to go back to other ordinances, previous ordinances, for the remainder. And Joe and Andrew and I went through as many files as we could and could not find those resolutions. So I'm not sure where else we can look for those. But to this conversation, of recent, and I mean the last 3 months, I am getting a lot of requests for filling paperwork for zoning determinations, which includes not only the zoning determination, but as well, any former fines, violations, what's the use, what's an allowable use. So it's a rather lengthy form that they're sending. And quite frankly, I don't feel that it should be the taxpayers paying for the service that I almost want to say we're doing someone else's work for them. And most of these companies are down in South Carolina and Florida. So I don't know if they're for land transfers or for what, but I do believe that there should be a fee set for that type of a project. If not, maybe that fits into a right to know, and then you can charge the time that it takes to research all of that as part of a right to know. Anyway, that's my 3 cents, more than you've asked for, I'm sure.
No, it's certainly welcome. So I guess let's get to work on piecing all that information together and come up with whatever we got to do to get this done the right way. Alex, are you in?
I mean, do we at least have records of like actual violations that were issued in the last couple of years related to code enforcement or zoning or?
Alex,
I mean, because I guess then we could try and stitch, whatever was charged essentially might have been, the fee, and then we could kind of backtrace it from there. And to Lisa's point, I mean, there are certain statutes that, are just going to set a fee for whatever administrative charge or whatever application or whatever fine. So we can cobble those back together, but I don't know. It seems to me that we're going to just have to essentially look at all of our fees and probably start setting, a 2021 baseline schedule and just moving forward from there.
I mean, I think just Alex to reiterate, I mean, we have to put it lightly, we have a spotty record of that. I can only find literally 4 physical violations on hand dating back to 2017, but beyond that, I'm not sure. I don't have a problem, and before I get to Lisa's point, I don't have a problem with keeping the fees, the fines set at the rate that they are now. I think it's working. I don't really see a need to increase that. But I think that it would be good to reiterate and then to add that $10 administrative fee to be added on after the 30-day window, which a resident does not pay the fine if we have to follow up and send a letter. I think that it compensates and I don't think that's an unreasonable burden. I think it compensates the borough for the time and energy that's being put in to doing that work and to, doing the administrative work behind it. So if after the 30-day window, if they don't, I think that also might help divert many of these cases out of court. Look, quite frankly, we send it over to the magisterial district judge. They may not be as concerned about the quality of households in Folcroft. And, you may see them drop fines or remove them. I understand that that's a notorious situation. So, if we're looking to divert people and keep them from having to go to court and having to, go before a judge, that $10 fee, I think, is actually reasonable.
Okay, I don't have an objection to that either at all. I think, in fact, I think we decided at our last meeting that was something we would like to maybe explore was the 30-day window plus the $10 administrative fee for mailing out a second communique from the borough, so to speak, that you got to pay your fine. We might even want to add another layer at 60 days before we turn it over to the court.
Do you think, I mean, Alex, I don't know if you want to say anything here, but do you think that council members should direct Alex to craft an ordinance and then you could potentially vote to advertise it at our next meeting? If agreed upon? Anybody?
That would be the process.
Right. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking would be a good solution to come from this. Now, with regard to Lisa's point, we get inundated with, she sent me an email about this and I smashed my phone earlier today when I was shoveling, thankfully. So I was hoping to call her and discuss it, but I'm starting to get hit with like a serious number of requests that looking into whether or not, I mean, a radical uptick in requests that whether or not there are liens on properties. Alex sent me the link to be able to do that. And so Denise has been researching those for the most part, but like, I don't know why they're not just looking this stuff up. Our records here are spotty of liens, frankly, in the office. I think we probably, if I had to guess, have 1/4 of the actual liens that are on record on file. probably about 1/4.
So then how do we have a guarantee that we ever get paid?
We usually just get the check. I
And
don't know if there's,
can't pair it up with a record from the past.
no, I mean, sometimes we get lucky and I'll get the request and I'll have the file on hand, but sometimes we don't.
Okay. Because, you know,
I'm not gonna blame any individual for it. I mean, this goes back years. So, I mean, in some cases, we've got liens that are over 20 years old, I'm sure.
right, but if somebody tries to buy a house at sheriff's sale or something, right? And then do you not know about the liens until after you purchased at least? And then they come down to the borough and they say,
You can research it, to be fair. I mean, if you're looking to purchase a home, you can look up, you can research the address and find out if there's anything on file.
because what they may be looking for, I don't know, is some sort of legal loophole that says that they won't have to pay that lien if the county has one record and the borough doesn't have anything to match it. There's no like due process there. There's no proof of due process that you had to lien the property. Am I right, Alex?
Well-
Could that present a problem for?
No, actually, I mean, if it's recorded and on file with the county, with the Court of Common Pleas,
That's the
where the lien's
gospel.
perfected. Right, it doesn't necessarily matter if Folcroft has a piece of paper that says we filed this lien on this date. If it's on record, it's there, provided that you perfected it within 1 year, that 1 year's time that it accumulated, and that you have done something with it within 20 years, meaning after 21 years, then the lien just automatically expires if you don't foreclose on it. Or if it doesn't sell at a sheriff's sale or a tax sale and the responsible party pays the lien off. So it can't sit there for 20 years. You just have to do something with it after that to renew it. So you should have records of those, but other than that, right, the county is the key source here.
We need to do an audit on all the liens we do have to see which ones are coming up for expiration.
Most of the stuff we have on file seems relatively new, like the last 5 to 7-ish years. So I would think most of that stuff's not coming up. I think it's probably mostly older than that. They may have been put away in a box somewhere and we just don't know where it is. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that.
Okay. All right. So moving on to we're moving on to the next item. We're going to discuss the raises for salaries. Andrew?
Yep.
So do I just actually, Alex, do I discuss what we discussed in executive session?
Well, do you want to vote on this tonight, or did you just want to move what you've reached a consensus on to your voting meeting in 2 weeks? I thought that's what the end
This
result.
is considered a voting meeting now, right? We can do it.
It is. You have voting power if you want to do it tonight.
I think we should just
But
get
I
it
don't have
over
a.
with.
Well, here's one thing I would caution, Joe. You probably want to embody this in a resolution, which isn't drafted,
Okay.
and which was not made publicly available before the meeting. So instead of backdating it, so to speak, and drafting the resolution after it, I would kind of advise that we draft it and then vote at the next meeting on it.
Okay. All right. So for both of those, so we discussed at executive session the salary adjustments to the police secretary's salary, as well as a raise for our crossing guards, which will be retroed back to the first of the year. So Alex, can we draw those up? I
Yes.
think okay. All right. And then we'll
Mute.
present them. We'll present them at the we'll present the resolutions and have them read at the next meeting. I'd like to discuss a street opening ordinance. So let's discuss this. So we've all been through the hell of the Pico construction in the village and what misery that presents. And also to what extent, expenses are incurred as a result of that. Even though Pico was kind enough to give us the cost of their one lane, there is an option for us to put on the books an ordinance for all future instances like this, where they have to tear streets up, that any streets that are torn up are required to be repaired in entirety from one curb to another. We didn't have that in place. And I remember thinking about hurrying up and passing it before the work was done with Pico. And Lisa said, I don't know if you really want to do that. And she was probably right. It's not it just was poor form. We were halfway through the deal with them. So I think it's something we should entertain. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? So essentially, the short story on that is, if they have to come in and replace all the water pipes, they're paving the whole road now. Like,
What
if that, go ahead.
what triggers the, like, what level of repair triggers this idea of having to repay, like, I guess is the question, because you have a difference between what Pico just did, which is gas lines along the entire length of the road, versus someone having to come in and do just a small section. Like, at what point do we trigger this idea that we're having a company come in and do the entire road, or from curb to curb of a section? Like, what is our thought process on this? Because
Actually,
not
it's a very,
every utility is going to do the whole of their system in one go. I think that's rather abnormal, really.
yeah. No, that's true. It's true. Lisa, what do we have any?
So we currently have criteria that we utilize. And it's the criteria from PennDOT, which is what Pico followed. You receive liquid fuels funds. I'm going to forget some of these, I know. If you have more than 100 feet with 5 openings, then you are required to pave the lane. If it's on both sides of the street, then they're required to go curb to curb. If there is more than, I believe it's 250 feet, but I have to check that number, of main. So say they were putting main in, and they were putting on one side of the street. And then they had openings, kind of like Pico did. If they are solely on one side of the street, they only have to pave one lane. Otherwise, they can just do a trench restoration. The only way that PennDOT requires that you do a full lane is, as I said, if you are affecting both lanes. And whether it's through the number of trenches that you have, so side trenches, kind of like a tree, or it would be possibly that they're going in the middle of the street and they're in both lanes. At that point, they would have to do both lanes. That's the only criteria that we've used so far, which is what PennDOT utilizes. Now, if you want to put an ordinance in effect, you might want to do two things. To Kyle's point, at what point do you have this ordinance come into play? If you're going to do an ordinance, I would certainly do an ordinance that we have a big problem with plumbers. And I don't mean to pick on the plumbers. They do a great job in repairing pipe, repairing laterals, water lines, etc. However, they don't do such a great job in repairing the road. So the way we've handled that in the past, and it's worked rather well, is when they come in for a permit to do that work, they must escrow monies. So, and we do $1,500. We do it in Norwood and Prospect Park. $1,500, it gets set aside. When they come back and do the restoration work, then they'll release that money to them. But it gives them incentive to complete the work properly. So that's what I might suggest for some of the smaller projects. I will tell you that there are municipalities that request bonds for any of the work that's done, so that you have a bond in case you don't especially care for the quality of the work, the restoration, when it's completed. So that's also a possibility. I don't believe I know. Upper Chichester Township holds a bond, especially for like Chester Water Authority, Pico, Southern Delaware County Authority, because they're the ones that are coming in and doing this type of major work. So just some options that you have.
Okay. All right, very good. So are there any municipalities, is anybody aware of, that have some sort of ordinance that is a precedent that we could maybe draw from?
Yeah, we do. We just did one, or my colleague did one in Upper Darby last year. So incredibly thorough and well researched. So I think if we're going to use one, we're probably going to model it off of theirs.
All right. I definitely want to, what does everybody think?
I mean, I
Can
think as
I-
long as our criteria are very clear as to, what triggers what and how, like I think the idea of the additional protections for those smaller projects, because those are the ones that accumulate over time and become the actual problem, I think is pretty important. And then, I mean, if this is something that is being done in other places and it's not completely, out of the blue, then I think it might be a good idea to go with what other groups are doing.
My only concern would be that I wouldn't want Folcroft to be put off on restoration because it would cost the company more money. But it sounds like Kyle said, Lisa said, it's typical to have some kind of system in place to make sure the work is done properly and restored properly. So, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea.
All right, so can I direct the solicitor to draw up an ordinance? Is that all right, Alex?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just on mute again.
And how long does that ordinance have to be advertised before it's voted upon?
I'll look into it, but I mean, at a minimum, unless there's specific statutory regulations we're looking at a minimum, it'll take 2 weeks to draft, and then you've got a no less than 7-day advertising period before meeting. So it's like a month. If there are specific regulations, it'll probably take about 2 months to get done.
So we're looking either March or April before we get this done.
Theoretically, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's get the ball rolling. Is that okay?
It's fine by me.
All right. Handing over to the Public Works Committee.
All right, so this item that is on here is kind of a punt from the last meeting. So at the last meeting, we discussed the purchasing of an F-350 truck for the Highways Department to replace the usage of the truck, the little, I believe it's a red truck, that's kind of on its last legs. Since then, we asked that I go and talk to Sean to make sure we know exactly what the usage was, because there was a little bit of disconnect there about what the truck was being used for, and then also to get us financing options, which hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at in the packet that was sent out with the agenda, I believe. So first off, with the usage, there was some discussion about not getting it until wintertime because it was originally kind of positioned as a winter use truck. That understanding has been corrected. So this truck, they have 3 trucks. They have the large dump truck that is used for moving bulk material, salt, and things like that they don't normally use for anything else on the day-to-day. Then they have a different F-350 dump truck, and then they have the smaller red truck. The 2 trucks are the daily use trucks. So they're not just used for snow removal. They're not just used during the snow time. So this F-350 would be replacing that daily use smaller truck. So it is useful immediately. This is not something that is only being used during the winter time. Sean also wanted to make sure that we understood we're not getting rid of the other truck. It's still going to be kept around and hopefully useful in other capacities as needed. So we're not, just immediately throwing it away. Otherwise, there are a couple financing options for it. So because of the fact that this is replacing a daily use vehicle, I suggest that we don't wait to get it because we don't know when our maintenance costs are going to outweigh our, purchasing costs. As far as for the financing options, they're at the top of the document you received. There were 4 options provided. All of them amount to an additional approximately $2,000 over the lifetime of the vehicle. So, the interest accrued isn't, a ton of money, but it is in non-insignificant amounts of money. We have the option to finance, or this is within the budgeted capital expenditures for the public works department. So there's an argument in both directions which way we want to go.
This is the same truck that we talked about last
Yes,
month.
this is what we punted from last meeting to get this information so we could vote today. That was what we had asked to do.
We could vote tonight on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Vote today. Yes,
All right.
we had punted this from the last one to get some additional information for this meeting.
What are you asking the council for?
Well, I would like to leave this meeting purchasing with the agreement to purchase this. As far as the financing, I am still somewhat torn. I think we budgeted the money to buy it this year. Sean and I have gone over what other items that he thinks that we need kind of immediately that fall more under the equipment budget and things that he's going to try to get grants for. So it does not seem like we are what he thinks we need and could use this year falls within the budget that we have. So it's not like we are going to box ourselves out of getting anything else this year by purchasing this upfront. That saves us $2,000. So that's not a small, those little bits add up over time. So I think I lean towards just purchasing it versus financing it, but I wanted to hear where other people were falling on this.
One quick comment that Sean has asked me. Sean is not going to be able to participate in the meeting tonight, unfortunately, but he wanted me to let you know that there's an issue with the transmission on the 2018 dump truck that the borough has, the PTO. Apparently, the transmission doesn't work right when there's salt in the bed of the vehicle. Danny apparently said that this happened in 2019 and that Ford had to fix it. It's some sort of error on their part. It's a new vehicle, so it's not like, it's been around for 15 years and it's starting to have problems. So
is it a recall issue?
I don't think it's a recall issue, but apparently Ford had to do the work previously. It might be some defect. I don't know that it's a recall, but apparently it already had been done once and now it's happening again. So he reiterated that he wanted you to know that and that he thinks it's urgent that we get this vehicle as soon as possible.
So the question is which financing option, do we purchase it outright or do we go for one of the financing options?
I kind of agree with Kyle that we should just purchase it. If we have the money, and like Kyle said, there's other things that Sean is looking into, other ways to get things that they need, and there's more equipment, which we have a separate budget for. So I would agree, let's just purchase it. So we have no car payment, like no truck payment or anything like that. I would say let's just set up financing.
So, there are two different theories on this. So when you have a fixed income and you're a working person in a home, you would want to, if you have the opportunity to pay off the thing and not have a monthly payment, that's great. Mike, are you with us? What would you recommend as our finance person?
I think you're in a position to just purchase it.
Okay. All right. If we have it, you mean purchase the whole thing outright?
Yes.
Cash?
If you wanted to do that, I think it's fine.
All right. Can we beat them up on the price with the cash purchase?
We are getting this as a contract through CoStars, so the pricing is determined by contract. We're already getting through CoStars like $12,000 off.
Yeah,
or something
I remember.
like that.
You know what? I'm sorry I asked about that. I remember the discount, $12,600 discount.
Yeah.
From the last meeting. You're right. All right. I'm all about it. So Kyle, if you want to call the question, you give my support with that.
So Alex, is there any specific wording here? Anything we need to do particularly?
But that's it for the year for highway. They're not getting any more items. No wood chipper. We're not doing that this year.
All of those items are the wood chipper and those things that he's discussed. He's looking to fund through grant money, not through purchase anyway. So, and we, as he has said, we don't currently have the capacity to use that anyway, really. So it's not like that is a top line item.
What do you mean the capacity to use?
Well,
the
we've got him and one other full-time worker and Danny as a part-time. We don't have as we move into spring and summer, the lawn mowing is going to take up most of their time. So until we are more fully staffed, we don't have the manpower capacity to also run other things at a level where that may make sense. So we're moving in the right direction, but he's looking for grant monies for that kind of stuff anyway. So he has said on multiple occasions, he does not intend to have us pay for that. He wants to find grant money for it. So,
All right. And I'm cool with however you want to get it. I'm cool with that. So,
all right. So I would like to make a motion to purchase the F-350 payment up front. I don't really know what the language would be there.
$38,350.
Yes, thank you. At a cost of $38,400.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, sir.
that new dump truck, that was in the shop a number of times. And that was built to PennDOT specs. They were gonna buy that, and they never did. So it isn't like they're overloading it or something. You know what I'm saying? That's PennDOT spec, that truck.
Right. So is there some sort of like a recall deal going on there?
I don't know. I have no idea.
All right. So, Andrew, are they having it looked at? Is there going to have to be like a transmission rebuild or something?
No idea what it's going to take because I don't know anything about cars, but yes, they will look at it.
Okay, cool. Anything else, Councilman Willis?
Nope, that is it for Public Works.
All right, Councilman Roskowski, Public Safety Committee.
No new business to report.
All right, Councilwoman Isaac for Public Health and Literacy.
Yes, the library is still staying safe. They are doing curbside. Also, I spoke with Joe earlier and he asked me to try to get in contact with, I believe it was the health department,
Yes.
if I'm correct, Joe. And I tried that number and it is so hard
It's pretty
to
busy.
get
Okay.
through. So I can't really probably get through. I don't know if someone can help me out with that, like through the day, because with my job, I can't be on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll try and find somebody to connect the dots. So I wanted to just bring something up as well that a couple senior citizens have brought up to me that do not have social media. Like they're not able to see the Facebook updates about the call center for the COVID shot. There are plenty of old people that don't even own a computer. And I was wondering if maybe you and me to get together and come up with something for public health, some sort of postcard for residents on how they could get up to date on the vaccine information, how they could get registered through the county, through the county program for the shot. I mean, Andrew, is there something we can do?
Obviously, we can set it up.
I'm all for that, Joe. It would have to be at evening time unless we do meet on the weekend.
We could even call. We can even talk on the phone about it. But Andrew, do you know of anything?
Yes. So just let me know when would be available to talk, and we could set a time in the evening to talk.
Sure. Just to brainstorm.
Give me a couple days and give me a couple times, and then I'll let you know which is best for me, as I'm busy as well as you are. I know. So,
Yeah.
But I think we should try to do that like ASAP, because I think we need to get that information to citizens, because a lot of them can be probably starting to get that vaccine already.
Right.
I'm actually getting my first on Friday. I'm so excited.
Very good.
Work.
Very
my
good.
work is so.
Does anybody have any ideas on outreach for that? I mean, we're getting to the point where, we're trying. We want our people vaccinated.
I got an email
force them, but we want to make it as available as possible.
I got an email from the county today. They're recognizing that we had registered. They still haven't given me a date. They're still doing people who are categorized 1A. They did not even give a timeline. I've spoken to county council members about this pretty regularly. And last I heard it was going to be hopefully as little as 10 days until we started getting to 1B. and that was about 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, they've added people who are 65 and older to category 1A that radically increased the number of people who come before municipal workers. So, I mean, it's tough to say. The only thing I would say is just to answer your question, Joe, that you posed a moment ago. Wouldn't be bad to do a robocall to residents, letting them know about the website at some point. We have a couple others that have to come out, so
But that's the problem. I mean,
the stuff updates every single day. That's my concern. Things change routinely. We
But
sent out a mailer.
let me finish. My problem is there is a contingent of residents in our municipality of whom their computer is it's a cup holder. They don't use computers. They don't want to be on the internet. It's never going to happen. The thought of going on the internet to them is like as foreign as I don't mean to sound ageist, but it is a generational thing. There's still a generation of people among us that for whom that is just not their thing, and it's never going to be something they're going to ever want to do.
Well,
so for that segment of people who I worry about most, because they also happen to overlap with the most highest risk proportions of our society, due to their age, they are the ones whom we worry about. We've got to find some way to reach them about availability of vaccination. They don't you can't put on a website, hey, call the call center. Senior citizens, call the call center. How are they going to see that on the internet? They don't even know what Facebook really is. They don't use the internet.
A robocall would be a good way to get at least some of those people.
All right. So maybe we got to get, and listen, I mean, we made every effort to get people on that robocall list. Maybe we do a robocall.
The other option is, instead of like a robocall, maybe where, how we called people to talk to when we were doing the campaign.
Right.
Maybe we can get together and just all start calling some of those senior citizens once we have more information and once we can explain things together. I was also thinking is some of them may not even drive. So I don't know if there's somebody would be able to provide transportation for them. I mean, I know during the week I wouldn't be able to, but if somebody had an evening appointment, I might be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Saturday, I might be able to. So I'm thinking we can help out in that way as well. So we get them vaccinated because we want everybody vaccinated. And then you asked me to call Gaten, so I can't even get the number over there to find out there's something that could be done actually at the borough where they could just come to the borough and get vaccinated. I did recently hear though that they're going to be at the pharmacy soon. I think I saw that.
If there's a demand for busing, or so, if there's a demand for people, if we have to rent a bus and there's enough interest, we're renting a bus like that.
Yes, I think that would be, so there's some ideas. How to reach them and get that out to them is another thing. And thank you, Joe, for calling me, bringing it up about that, because I wasn't even thinking about that piece of it, because it's so, right now, our county is so backed up and things like that with getting
it's not just the county, it's the whole country, but I think we're trying to iron it out. And what's going to happen is the floodgates are going to open, Mindy, and we need to have a plan for when those floodgates open. So that we can either get the vaccine to our people or our people to the vaccine. So I need you to start thinking about it in real time. Work with me. We'll kick some ideas around. We'll come up with some stuff. Okay.
Oh, definitely. I'll be in touch with you. Are you available tomorrow? Are you available tomorrow evening?
I am.
Okay. So what time do you think is good to call you?
Anytime afterwards tomorrow, Wednesday. I actually have off. I have to go to a funeral tomorrow for.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
The friend of a father who passed from COVID. So the father of a friend. So I mean, it's starting to get, this stuff is starting to hit real close to home for all of us now. So.
I hear you on that. I mean, my uncle passed away from that. I haven't even seen that side, them yet, because they're all out in Illinois.
Right. So let's talk tomorrow. We'll get together and we'll pick some ideas around. We're going to have to come up with a plan.
All right. Do we want to say 7 o'clock?
That's fine. That works for me.
All right,
Alright.
we'll do 7 o'clock then. That works. It's
Alright.
not, we don't need to talk long, just, 7 o'clock. We'll start getting some ideas. I'll be thinking about it. You be thinking about it. We'll go from there.
Okay. All right. So for municipal planning and zoning, Councilman Waters.
Yes, the application by the Beacon of Folcroft to build 7011 on Delmar Drive was approved. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was approved at the most zoning court hearing. I'd like to also say that, take a moment to say that I'm sorry. At least two members of our planning and commission have resigned, but was not replaced. I would suggest that we replace them with our next meeting. Our votes, get resumes in, to take care of the situation.
So who resigned from where?
Planning and commission.
From the planning commission. Andrew, did you know anything about this?
Yeah, so basically we discovered that we even have a planning commission. I was going through an old list of employees and I found it. But the only two members that I could even get in touch with, both of them had resigned at least 1.5 years or 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years ago. I think the last time they met was May 19th or something like that of 2019.
All right, we need to get this planning commission put back together. Andrew, can you also find out what we have many different boards and commissions?
Yep.
We don't know when any of the terms expire. I need to know all that. I need a list of like whose terms up or what's going on.
That information may not be available. I'm not even they may have been voted on at a council meeting, but I don't have meeting minutes that confirm when anybody was voted on at a council meeting. And I can tell you right now that probably all members are expired. Probably all of them are past the point where they could be reappointed or when their terms are up. So what you could do, I've spoken to Alex about this already, is that if all members' terms are up already, we could reappoint the members since they have to be on a rolling term, at least for zoning hearing board. I assume planning is the same, Alex? But so you appoint one member to a 3-year term, one member to a 2-year term, and one member to a 1-year term, and you can appoint an alternate as well. And then that way there'll be a continual rolling basis where these people get reappointed. But I have literally not one mention of any member being appointed to any board except for a senior services advisory committee in 2019. Is the only thing that I can find in any meeting minutes appointing anybody to any board. I think it might have just been done by conversation.
Okay. So like our pension board, our civil service commission, all that.
I spoke to Rogo and we have it's not clear. I don't know if you want to jump in, Rogo, but it's not clear who's even active on that one either.
Yeah, not too long ago, they put Lisa Dunn on it. It was on Karen Boulevard. They had asked me to be on it as a council member when Shrammy resigned. And I believe it would still be Jason's wife, Lisa McGuigan. Now, when the terms and all that, I have no idea. I don't know when Lisa Dunn was just put on. I'm going to say maybe the last 2 years. But as far as the years did alternate, but I don't know what those years would be.
All right. So we think that they're all current then on the Civil Service Commission?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. All right. So then the Planning Commission has vacancies. Two. All right. So Andrew, can we get that advertised across social media platforms that anybody interested in serving on the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Contact the borough with a resume or whatever have you.
Yes, sounds good to me.
All right. Anything else, Councilman Waters?
No, that's it.
All right,
before we wrap up, I would just also suggest that you might as well authorize Andrew to let's seek interest for zoning hearing board appointments too at the same time. Because we've got to clear that one up too. We have no idea again what the terms are and who's on that as well. So you might as well just see, what kind of interest is out there from the community.
Alex, we did clear up the zoning hearing board issue, actually. I've got the members and their contact information now. We don't know what their terms are and they don't really know either, but so they should be appointed to terms. But I mean, if they're willing to participate and they seem fine. I mean, I was in the meeting that they had a couple weeks ago and they were pretty good.
Well, that's fine, but the issue is the terms. So I would feel a lot more comfortable having at least potential people out there to be named as alternates right now, and or somebody that would be willing to step in to fill a term if we need it.
I agree. So Andrew, this is a twofold thing. Let the folks that are on the zoning hearing board know that we're not running them out of town.
Yeah.
You know, let them know that there's nothing to worry about, and let, I guess, communicate out that we might be looking for alternates. Those alternates may also be able to serve on other commissions and boards and stuff that may be floating around in town. So, there's that. Are you cool with that, Andrew?
Sounds good to me.
If the solicitor tells you to do it, you do it.
No.
Gotta listen to your lawyer, right?
It's just advice.
It's always,
Sounds good.
listen, can never go wrong listening to your lawyer. Public Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Daly.
No new business.
Joe,
Sure.
excuse me, Joe.
Yes.
Should that be the issue that I want to bring up be brought up in planning or no? Or should that be brought up?
I would say bring it up in,
New business?
I would bring it up in new business.
Okay, sorry for the
Okay.
interruption.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No worries.
right.
So no new business from
Sorry, Lee.
Councilwoman Daly. Lee, I actually wanted to talk to you about, so, I mean, the light at the end of the tunnel is starting to show. I don't know what what mass vaccination is going to do for us with the advent of these mutant strains. I want to have a freaking street fair hoedown, food trucks party like crazy, like great time for our residents of all ages when this thing is over. I have somebody that's really good at this stuff that would like to work with you to help you plan it. Like, not just like a community day. I'm talking like we're shutting the town down and everybody's having a damn party, like kind of thing. What are your thoughts?
I think that would be awesome.
Lee?
Yeah, I was just talking about this with my committee the other day, that we definitely need to do something big once we can do a community day, and probably come up with 2 ideas. A community day that is COVID ready and one that is big and fun and not worried about COVID. But
Right.
I mean, as far as going all in and planning for something big no matter what, I don't know that we're going to be there. So to me, my concern is let's make a plan, but I don't know how far into that plan we can get. What I'm keep hearing is June is the hopes for vaccination, and we're even that, who knows how many people will be. So I'm with you, let's go big, but I don't want to not have a backup plan for not big. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
In other words, if we're still stuck in this.
we're going to do something for community day this year, whether it is, COVID safe, or big and back to normal. I don't know how big and back to normal we're going to get, but I'm definitely, we're talking about both situations. So something, we're not going to skip it this year. Something is coming.
Okay.
And something is coming for Easter too. We're working on that now. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We have to sit down and have a conversation with the committee, but we're working on some fun ideas for COVID, and then for not, if we're out of it at some point. And I would like to do community day at the end of September. So let's hope that we're not running around wearing masks still in September. But I didn't think we'd be wearing masks in February.
either.
So, I'm nervous to get too far ahead of ourselves. So let's see, but I'm with you. When we can see the end of this tunnel for real, let's go big and let's have fun. So.
I like it. All right, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page with that. So just anybody who's watching, there is something to look forward to. It's not going to be like this forever, Municipal is that all from you, Lee? Municipal legislation, Councilman Waters.
I have no new business.
New construction committee, Councilman Isaac, Councilman Willis.
All right, so there have been some developments since the last time that we spoke. So I had a meeting with the contractors, not that long ago, as we had kind of expected and or feared. Prices have gone up on a number of different things due to changes in demand and change in the the prevailing wage. So the price is looking to probably increase. I don't have an exact figure in front of me, but around 1.3 million. That brings us pretty much up to what we had expected to spend in the first place. Which this is an unfortunate, just the price of materials has gone up and the prevailing wage cost has gone up. I do not think that, based on the fact that these are costs that everyone will have to incur, no matter who they are, whether they're this contract or another one, I do not think that anyone would be able to reasonably provide us with a cheaper cost than they will, since they were already the cheapest cost in town. And this cost is a change that everyone has to account for no matter what. And then they had requested that we change the timing because we're starting at a different time than originally expected. So they wanted to open up the timing to a full year for completion. It was originally set at 270 days. They think that they will probably still be able to get pretty close to that 270, but what they don't want to have happen is, make a promise and then break it. So they requested that we extend it. They had said if the 300 at March of next, they want to be able to start in March of next year. We should be, at the very least, if we're still working, putting in desks.
Wait, March of this year.
Starting in March of this year, right? It's
Okay.
February now. They got to mobilize. By starting, I mean actually working, but they have to mobilize. And then the time of year, you have to be careful with opening up the ground. If you're going to open up the ground, you need to be working. You don't want to have it open and then have it rain and then have issues. You want to be moving and working. And, this is, they want to be starting in March, which would put them completion, the 365 days completed into March of 2022. But that completion is us putting in desks and plugging in phones, not them being done and leaving the site. So there's a
Setting the
difference
building
in
for
term.
turnkey use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is what the discussion we came to. Alex, I don't know if there's been any movement on an actual contract. Andrew.
And what do we have to do about the borrowing? Because I
Yeah.
really wish that they could have told us this before we closed on the loan. But Alex, how long does this complicate things? Because now we have to go back to the bank and get more money. Am I right? Am I right about that? Okay.
Yeah, where it was left off from my conversations last week with Andrew was that you were going to contact the bank and also run the finances with Mike Hill to determine what other amounts you guys have or don't have and what you would need to finish this. And then from there, if you've got to go back and get additional financing, maybe you can amend the current loan to do so. And then it takes a couple of weeks in order to do that and close to get your additional money, or maybe we have to go back through the loan process again with the public bank, whom I'm sure you would, choose again in this financing because obviously you're borrowing the other additional amount from them. But it just depends, right? We would have to then submit, to DCD again for approval of that second, and we'd ask for expedition. So we're probably talking a month or two here. But again, I would believe that, Kyle, correct me if you're wrong, but you have $4.69 million sitting there available to start construction.
Yeah.
So if you need to borrow additional monies in order to complete the offset for the additional costs, we can work on this in the background while, construction commences, obviously.
Right. That was,
you don't need the money up front.
Yeah, that was the thought that I was working under. As we close the contract, they'd start working while we finish out the process of getting the additional money. I don't think it has been indicated that we're going to struggle with that. So that would be my thought process as well. So this shouldn't delay us from being able to start. What may is that I was under the impression, Andrew, that they would have had a contract out to us by now to head over to Alex.
Nothing sent over yet. I can bug him again.
So that is the outstanding piece. Once that contract is signed and done and discussed, do we need to vote on that, Alex? Or is that just because we've done the bidding? What's the?
No, I mean, the contract is fine and you've
Okay.
already approved it. And if there's any additional amendments to it, that's essentially authorized to be taken care of by the borough manager at this point.
Okay.
So you're fine on that. Of course, you'll have to run through the additional financing. That will have to be presented back to the council with the terms and conditions, and you have to approve that, obviously.
If I may, typically, if you're going to change the amount of a contract, you do it as a change order so that you understand what it is that the scope is changing or whatever materials are changing. Now, I would suggest to you, if you are going to do this with them, and I had talked to Andrew a little bit about this last week, that you ask them for a proposal with all of the information on it. So you know what you're getting and you know what you're spending your money on. And then that becomes part of the actual contract. Okay.
So that was a part of what they were supposed to provide as well, Andrew, when we left that meeting. They were supposed to give us a breakdown of exactly what was the changes over the original amount. And so I assume we have not received that either.
Nope, we have not. I asked them, at least right after we spoke. Actually, I think while we were on the phone, I asked them for that change order and the justification for each of these materials and the items, so we could go line by line what these cost increases are for, instead of just assuming that it's just 1.3 and not questioning it. But yeah, we haven't received anything from them yet. No.
Did we give them a deadline?
Sure.
No,
We
I'm
did-
asking.
We did give them a deadline. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was before this meeting.
Because maybe I just don't like the way they do business. Maybe they're just not the right contractor for us. Maybe this just isn't going to work out. I mean, I'm going to say it publicly, because if my borough manager as a contractor asks you to get me a list before this meeting and you don't have the list, and we're where we are right now, and I'm sorry if I'm expressing some frustration, but it needs to be directed somewhere, and I hope they're watching. Maybe you just ain't the right contractor for us. Okay? Is that
So-
probably an issue?
When we spoke in the meeting, there was a targeted groundbreaking of hopefully early March. That's the timeline that they felt that they could keep. So, I mean, I think that we can.
That's the
I think-
timeline. That's the timeline they gave you. What was the timeline you gave them to get you that change order?
I don't believe that I gave them a specific date to get it, but Councilman Willis and I did discuss that we wanted these materials prior to this meeting so that it could be discussed and voted on.
Okay, so then they knew that we wanted that before this meeting, and they blew the deadline. I'm going to tell you that's going to be a problem for me. And if that sort of thing continues, that's going to be a problem for me. And I'm starting to really rethink that maybe I don't want them on this job. And I'm not yelling at you, Andrew. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm not yelling at any member of this council. That's a message that I hope somebody else sees and they read it loud and clear.
They told me that we would get it by Monday of this week, so we didn't receive it. I'm looking here just at the correspondence, but we did not receive it.
Maybe this isn't going to work out then. So you can reach out to them tomorrow and find out where their head is, because my head's about to pop off about this. We've missed too many deadlines. This building should be like, I should be able to see a crane down there working. Like this should be. I feel like somebody's playing games, and I don't like games, especially when I don't know what the rules are. I mean, you want to play games? Give me the rules. I'll play a game. But you can't play to win if you don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the game is here, but somebody needs to figure it out, because I'm getting annoyed. Kyle, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, you're fine. Other than that, unless it was thought that we wanted to, once we get that information, get that presented, get that spoken about, and then make our decision to move forward with this. Unless we are dealing with some severe deal breakers, I would recommend we attempt our best to avoid having to go back out and bid this again, only because that is going to extend this process by quite a bit, having to restart from the beginning. And this is something that the police department desperately needs. I mean, no one needs to be reminded about that, but just to kind of say it again, I mean, they are working in suboptimal is a gracious term for it conditions. So the most we can do to get them out of there and also, be able to provide the community center for once this all calms down. So putting this, we want to make sure we're doing everything, in my opinion, doing everything we can to avoid putting any undue delays on. But other than that, for new construction, that is everything I have.
Parking permit committee.
So for this one, I would like to, Alex, I'd like to go back, wrap around to an idea that we had discussed, I believe in December, which the parking committee had kind of decided was the first step for the driveways, which is to bring in a assessor for the value of the property. Remind me, that was what we had, or confirm that I am correct in this
Yeah,
thought process.
we just talked about hiring an appraiser to do a quick, 3-4 property, 1 street, appraisal of just what the actual value of the easements that we would need would be.
So what would be the process for us engaging with it in this way with somebody so we can have it ready for the next meeting?
You just have the council motion to authorize Andrew to engage an appraiser for one particular street to perform the work.
So, I mean, I guess we could do it at this meeting. It doesn't really need to wait for the next one then.
It does not. I mean, you guys have voting power, so.
It's up
If you wanna
to
do it
you
tonight,
guys
that's
whether you
fine.
want to do it. I would
I
like,
just have one question regarding the permits. For example, this snowstorm. How are we going to handle that with parking?
I will tell you, we are not at the point in this plan where I would have a deliberate answer for you with that one. We are at the point where we're still figuring out how much the easements will cost. We're still in the beginning stages of this. I don't want to give you an answer to a question and then have to give you another answer later. I'd rather just tell you we don't have that answer yet.
It's just something to think about,
Yep.
like, because for example, my husband and I usually park behind our house in our driveway. And due to our alley, I don't park behind there with having to be at work because my job is essential. I have to go. So I park on the street. And if I don't want to buy a permit, or he doesn't want to buy a permit because we both can fit back in our driveway, how would that work in the winter?
That among many
And
other
that's
issues are a part
right.
of the planning process, but yeah.
Right. That's just something I would like to think that the committee should be discussing.
Yep.
Like, are we going to, during the storm, are we going to not fine people if they're on the street who doesn't have a parking permit? That kind of stuff, just for that reason.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to vote or we just want to wait until the next meeting for an appraiser. It doesn't really, the faster we move on these things, the faster that we can get them done.
Let's push it along.
So is there any preferential streets that we think would be a good place for them to go to, Andrew, or anyone else for this appraisal system? I was thinking probably somewhere along Taylor where you've got the most, just a set of blocks around there. I don't know if there's any weird places, but just pick a random block on Taylor, I would say, and just kind of.
So are we trying to get like an average general number of so what we want to do is we want to pick one breezeway without an alley between the house. So in other words, breezeway houses are the houses on the end of a group of homes, but does not have a driveway separating them. Their driveways are going to be a slightly different size than a person who lives on an end house with a driveway that wraps beside their house and behind their house. So let's identify, could you take notes, Kyle? I just want to run this through. So you taking notes on this? So we're going to want to know what breezeway costs are going to be. All right. That's going to be different from a proper end house with a driveway at the side and just a standard middle of the row. Right? So you're muted. You're muted, Kyle. Kyle, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I would suggest we take kind of an entry to entry section along a driveway so we get a larger sampling maybe of those items. So breezeways versus ends versus middle sections.
The one I'm thinking of that is probably the best example is the 800 block of Grant from Delview to the driveway right before Edwards. That stretch of row home is a primary example of all three types of driveway easements you're going to see that you're going to want to price out. Does that make sense, Lisa?
I don't know that I have an opinion. And any one of them will work.
I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. So there's an entrance for around, yes. So that 800 to 910 is pretty much got every example of what you're talking about. 800 and 910 would be
Right.
a good sampling. So let's go with that. So I would like to make a motion to authorize Andrew to engage with an appraiser to appraise the value of the easements for the driveway on Grant Avenue from house 800 to 910.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. So all right, so that motion carries. Police chief's report. Chief, you still on?
I am. I'm trying to get off of mute. I apologize.
That's all right. No problem.
The police department everything's running well. The only thing that is coming up, and it has been just at a standstill, I know, with the paving. Right now, the rest of the paving is going to be on Delmar Drive, and that's going to be possibly next week. They're not going to do anything for the rest of this week, obviously, because of the weather. So we're looking at Delmar Drive being a little bit of a problem, maybe next week for maybe 2 days, and then they should be out of here for that restoration paving.
Is that everything, Chief? Chief?
That's everything for today. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
No problem. I didn't hear you. Did you say that was all you had?
Yes, sir. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. All right, sorry. Solicitor's report?
Nothing separate. I have my homework list, so I'll have more to report next meeting.
Finance director?
Just a couple items. We're going to be submitting for the month of January, a checks total approximately $251,627. Provided Andrew the breakdown for the highway. We might need to reclassify some items for 2020 that perhaps were not categorized to highway. So we're going to take a look at that with Andrew and Sean from my firm to make sure that are in line with the 19 and 20 the numbers, because the numbers came in higher for 2019. So I think we might need to recategorize some items from the general fund. So we're going to take a look at that. And that is all I had on my end.
Okay. So what was the balance in the general fund at the current?
No, what I was referring to was that we might need to reclassify from general fund to highway.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that was it.
Right. Okay. All right. So borough manager's report. Andrew.
Sorry about that, Joe. So just a couple things. I sent out my borough manager report last week, but a couple things that have come up since then. The snow, as you may have noticed, we had some snow, a little bit of snow the last few days. Our guys have been out there. Literally, we've had people working nonstop from 7 o'clock Sunday until now. I believe they are all home now, hopefully, getting some rest. I think our streets are great. We've only received 2 complaints from residents, and they were minor issues that were addressed by highway staff immediately. Other than that, the reception seems to be very positive. I think they've done a fantastic job plowing the streets. One thing that came up while they were plowing the streets is that some of the trenches that were temporarily covered in particular, I've noticed on Taylor Drive, Grant, and Heather Roads in particular, the blacktop that they put down seems to be coming up and turning and bouncing around, and particularly badly with the snow and with the paving. So I drove through there today, went down every street in the village, and that area is really bad. I reported this to the company that did that work, actually reported it to ULS. They're going to come in with a street sweeper tomorrow to come in and evaluate, and then hopefully early next week when it clears up a little bit, they're going to come in and they'll hit the whole village with a street sweeper and try and get some of that gravel up off the street. For events, Rep. Dave Deloso has confirmed that we'll be doing a food giveaway with 200 boxes of groceries like we did last time, or we did in October. 220-pound boxes each of these groceries in the parking lot across from Borough Hall. That will be up soon. There's a graphic Lee just shared about that. We already discussed the issue with the truck. And that is all that I have, actually, for you, other than what was in the report. One thing not in the report, code enforcement, we were up well over 100 tickets for last month that had been completed when I sent it out. So we ended the month over 100 violation fines issued in the month of January. I don't know if you're saying something, Joe, but you're on mute.
Is that up over from last year this time, or up over from last month?
You know what? Actually, I didn't compare it to last year, but for this one. But yeah, this is just 100 over 100 fines issued.
Okay, all right. I thought you meant up over from last month. Okay, I didn't hear you correctly.
I think it's probably about, as I recall, it's about 45 more than January of last year.
My mom's sitting behind me complaining that one of them was hers.
It was.
So, all right. Under anything under old business? Anything under new business? I think, Chief, this was something you wanted to discuss. Fire Chief Weber, still on with us? Tom? Okay. I don't think we have, looks like he's still on, but I can't hear him. All right, we'll move on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I'll make the motion, so moved.
Seconded, and does anybody second, rather?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Everybody have a good night.
Have a good night.
You too. Joe, I'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Yep.
Have a good day.
See you
All
there.
right. Bye-bye.